Hey guys, tonight we're doing something a little different. Instead of looking at history from the outside, we're stepping inside it. You're going to experience a day, a single, ordinary day, in the life of a Roman legionnaire stationed on Hadrian's wall in the year 128 Anno Domini. My name is Marcus Valerius Severus, and I've been freezing my ass off on this northern frontier for 2 years now. So before we begin, take a moment to like the video and subscribe if you enjoy this kind of immersive history. Let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is. And especially if you've got connections to military service or remember the stories your fathers told about soldiering. Those of you who served in Korea or spent time in cold weather posts, I'd love to hear how this compares to your experience. Now settle in, get comfortable, and let's step back in time together. Close your eyes if you want. You're about to live a day that someone actually lived 1,896 years ago. Dawn. The fourth watch ends. I wake up when I always wake up, when my body says it's time, which is just before the buccinator sounds reveille. My back aches. It always aches. I'm 32 years old, which makes me ancient by legionary standards, and I've been sleeping on wooden planks with a straw mattress thinner than your average doormat for 14 years now. The cold hits me before I'm fully conscious. Not the kind of cold you experience when the heating goes out for an hour. I'm talking about the kind of cold that makes your bones hurt, that turns your breath into clouds thick enough to see across the room, that makes you seriously question every decision that led you to this moment. I'm lying in a barracks that houses 10 other men, and I can hear every single one of them breathing, snoring, shifting, farting. Privacy? That's not a Roman military concept. The room is maybe 40 feet long and 15 feet wide. Stone walls, timber roof, dirt floor covered with wooden planks that have absorbed 14 years of boot traffic, spilled wine, blood, and things we don't discuss. The walls are thick. They have to be up here, but thick doesn't mean warm. It means the cold takes a little longer to get through. But brother, it gets through. I sit up slowly because quick movements when it's this cold are a good way to pull something. The blanket, singular, because we get one, falls away. And congratulations, I'm now experiencing the full majesty of a British winter morning in 128 AD. I'm wearing my tunic still. Everyone sleeps in their tunics. Taking your clothes off would be suicide. My feet find the floor, and even through the leather of my caligae, those are our sandals. the ones with the hobnails that make every surface sound like a hailstorm. I can feel the cold of the wood. Those of you who did basic training in the 50s or 60s, you remember that first morning when you realized comfort was no longer part of your vocabulary? This is that. Except we don't get to go home after 8 weeks. My enlistment is for 25 years. I'm 14 years in. 11 more to go. Sometimes I count days. Mostly, I try not to. I stand. My knees crack loud enough that Rufus, in the bunk across from mine, opens one eye and glares at me. Rufus is from Gaul, built like an ox, has opinions about everything. And right now, his opinion is clearly that I should shut up and let him sleep another 5 minutes. I give him a look that says, "Welcome to the army," and he closes his eye again. There's a basin of water near the door. The water has a skin of ice on it. I break through with my hand. The cracking sound joins the symphony of morning noises and splash my face. The shock of it actually hurts. My face goes numb immediately. Luxury. Thy name is hygiene. I cup water in my hands and drink. It tastes like iron and stone and probably some things I'd rather not think about. But it's water. And we're not picky. You learn not to be picky when you're stationed at the edge of the known world, where civilization ends and the barbarian lands begin. Morning preparations. Becoming a soldier. Let me tell you about getting dressed when you're a Roman legionnaire. It's not like throwing on a pair of pants and a shirt. It's a process, a cold, complicated, necessary process that I've done so many thousands of times I could do it blind drunk in the dark. Which, to be fair, I have. First, the tunic. I'm already wearing it. Red wool, knee-length, sleeveless in summer, but I've got the long-sleeved version now, because winter. The red isn't bright anymore. It's been washed in too many rivers, stained with too much sweat and dirt and the occasional blood. It's more of a rusty brown red now, but it's thick. It's wool, and it keeps some warmth trapped against my skin. Next, the belt. The cingulum militare, wide leather, bronze fittings, decorative pendant strips that hang down in front. They look fancy, but they also protect your groin, which seems like a design priority I can support. The belt cinches tight around my waist, over the tunic. It holds everything together. It's also where I'll hang my pugio, my dagger, and my money pouch, though the pouch doesn't have much in it. Soldiers aren't rich. Then comes the armor. The lorica segmentata. If you've ever seen a picture of a Roman soldier, you've seen this armor. Horizontal bands of iron strips curved to fit the torso, held together with leather straps and bronze hinges. Shoulder guards that overlap down onto the chest. It's a brilliant piece of engineering, actually. Provides good protection, allows decent mobility, distributes weight reasonably well. It's also cold as hell, heavy, about 20 pounds. And when you're trying to put it on by yourself in a freezing bar, racks with numb fingers, it's a pain in the ass. I need help. Everyone needs help with armor. That's why we have contubernium, tent groups of 8 men who do everything together. Fight together, march together, help each other get dressed, like we're heading to the world's most dangerous formal event. Quintus, I say, not too loud. Get up. Armor time. Quintus groans. He's 24, from Hispania, been here 6 months. Still thinks complaining might help. It's freezing, Marcus. Notice that, did you? Armor. Now. He crawls out of his blanket, muttering in Spanish. I hold up the back plates of my armor, and he helps me feed my arms through the shoulder guards. The metal is so cold against my tunic that I actually hiss through my teeth. Quintus fastens the leather straps that hold the front and back together at my sides. His fingers are clumsy with cold, but he gets it done. You do this enough times, muscle memory takes over. Then I return the favor, holding his armor while he struggles into it. He's shorter than me, stockier. His armor fits differently. Every set is slightly different, adjusted for the man who wears it. Around us, the barracks is waking up fully now. 10 men in various stages of dress and undress, all trying to put on 50 pounds of military equipment in a space barely big enough for us to stand up in without elbowing each other. It's organized chaos. We've done this every morning for years. We know the dance. Now for the gladius. My sword. This is a tool I know better than any other possession I own. The blade is about 20 inches long, double-edged, designed for stabbing rather than slashing. The Romans figured out a long time ago that you can slash at a man all day. But one good thrust to the gut ends the conversation quickly. The scabbard hangs on my left hip, the sword cross-draw so my right hand can pull it across my body. The weight of it there is familiar, comforting even. A legionnaire without his gladius is just a man in fancy metalwork. Pugio next. That's the dagger, smaller cousin to the gladius, goes on the right side of the belt. It's a backup weapon, a tool, and occasionally something you use to cut your food or pry apart stones or any of 100 other tasks that require a sharp edge. Helmet time. The Galea. This one's iron with bronze fittings, has cheek guards that hang down, a reinforced brow, and a neck guard that keeps rain and arrows from going places they shouldn't. It's got a small dent on the left side from where a Pictish warrior tried to cave in my skull 3 years ago. Didn't work, obviously, but the dent remains as a reminder that the people on the other side of that wall we're standing on are not our friends. I settle the helmet onto my head. The leather suspension system inside is supposed to cushion impacts. Mostly, it just makes my head sweat in summer and freeze in winter. The weight sits on my shoulders, distributed through the neck guard. You get used to it. Everything hurts a little less when you're used to it. Those of you who wore steel pots in Korea or helmets in the Pacific, you know what I'm talking about. That specific weight, that specific discomfort, that specific knowledge that this uncomfortable thing might save your life, so you wear it anyway. Last piece, the scutum, the shield. This is what makes a Roman legionnaire truly Roman. It's a curved rectangular shield, about 4 feet tall, 2.5 feet wide, made of layers of wood strips glued together and covered in leather and canvas, with an iron boss in the center. It weighs about 20 pounds, which doesn't sound like much until you're holding it at arm's length for 6 hours while barbarians throw things at you. The shield has my legion's emblem painted on it, Legio Sexta Victrix, the 6th Legion, victorious. We earned that name. The paint is faded and chipped now. There are dents in the wood from impacts I remember and impacts I don't. One particularly deep gouge near the top edge is from a spear that would have taken my head off if I'd been 3 inches taller. Lucky for me, I'm not. I'm now wearing approximately 50 pounds of equipment. Add in my body weight of about 160 pounds, and I'm carrying nearly a third of myself again in iron, bronze, leather, and wood. This is what Rome expects of its soldiers. This is what we do. Dawn formation. The day begins officially. Outside, the buccinator sounds. That's the horn that announces reveille, assembly, everything official. The sound cuts through the cold morning air like a blade. It's a sound I've heard 4,000 times, give or take. Still gets me moving. We file out of the barracks in order. The contubernium moves as a unit. The cold outside hits different than the cold inside. Inside was stagnant, trapped, thick. Outside is wind. The wind up here on the wall is constant. It comes from the north, from the lands beyond our frontier, and it brings with it the smell of pine forests, peat bogs, and the general scent of places where Rome's authority ends. I take my position in formation. We are an 80-man century, not 100. Don't ask me why. And we form up in ranks. I'm in the 3rd rank, 5th position. Same spot I've been in for 2 years. The centurion, that's our commanding officer, stands at the front. His name is Gaius Petronius. He's from Rome itself. And he's the kind of man who thinks punishment builds character. Maybe he's right. I've had a lot of character built. "Century, attention!" His voice cuts through the morning. 80 bodies snap to attention. Shields come to position. Left arm through the grip, shield vertical, resting against the shoulder. Right hands hold spears. We stand absolutely still because Petronius notices everything. And noticing leads to extra duties. And extra duties lead to even less sleep than we already don't get. The sun is just starting to peak over the eastern horizon. The light is thin and watery, the kind of light that promises nothing except more cold. The sky is that pale blue-gray of a winter morning in Britain. If you've ever been to Scotland in January, you know this light. It's the same light, just older. Petronius begins roll call. Each man sounds off when his name is called. It's a ritual. Everyone's here. No one's stupid enough to be absent. But we do it anyway because the army loves its rituals. Structure. Order. Knowing that everyone is where they're supposed to be. Marcus Valerius Severus. Present, sir. My voice joins the chorus of other voices. We sound off, one after another, a rhythm of names and confirmations that's probably been happening in Roman armies for 500 years. We're part of something bigger than ourselves. That's the idea, anyway. Most days, I just feel like I'm part of something colder than myself. Roll call complete. Petronius launches into the morning briefing. Today's duties: wall patrol, ditch maintenance, equipment repair, and the ever-popular whatever else I decide needs doing. First rotation to wall patrol. Marcus, your contubernum. Second rotation, ditch work. Third rotation, stand by for inspection and maintenance. Questions? No one asks questions. Questions are invitations for Petronius to explain things at length, and we'd all rather just get to work. Dismissed to duties. We break formation with the practiced efficiency of men who've done this exact thing 1,000 times. My contubernum, 8 of us, heads for the stone stairs that lead up to the wall top. Time to begin my actual day's work. Standing on top of a wall in freezing wind, watching for enemies who probably won't come, doing it for hours at a stretch, then repeating tomorrow. Soldiering. It's not all glory and battle. Mostly, it's standing around being cold. Morning patrol. The wall walk. I climb the stairs to the wall top. These steps are worn smooth by thousands of feet before mine. 15 years worth of legionaries doing the same climb I'm doing now. The stone is slick with frost. I keep one hand on the iron railing and the other on my shield. Falling down stone stairs in 50 pounds of armor is not how I want to start my day. The wall top is exposed to the full force of the northern wind. The moment my head clears the parapet, the wind hits my face like a physical blow. It's not just cold, it's aggressive about it. This wind has come from somewhere beyond the frontier, picked up speed across miles of open moorland, and arrived here with the specific intention of making me miserable. The walkway on top of the wall is about 6 feet wide, just enough for 2 men to pass each other comfortably, or for 1 man to turn around without falling off either edge. To my south is the Roman side, relatively civilized, with the vallum, that's the ditch and earthwork system that runs parallel to the wall. And beyond that, military roads, settlements, the infrastructure of occupation. To my north is the other side, the barbarian side. Let me tell you what I see when I look north. Nothing. And I mean that both literally and philosophically. There are no Roman roads, no Roman buildings, no Roman anything. Just hills, forests, bogs, and the occasional wisp of smoke from some Pictish settlement that I can't actually see from here, but know exists because sometimes they come visit us with bad intentions. The Picts, that's what we call them, the painted people, don't like us being here. Can't say I blame them. We showed up, built a massive wall through their territory, and declared that this side is ours now. They've been making their displeasure known ever since through raids, ambushes, and general hostility. My job, standing here on this wall, is to watch for them. Watch for any sign of movement, any indication that today might be the day they decide to try something. Most days, nothing happens. But the days when something does happen tend to be very exciting in ways I don't enjoy. I take my position at one of the merlons. That's the raised part of the battlement, the bit you hide behind when arrows start flying. The crenelles are the gaps between them where you shoot back. Basic fortification design, but effective. I set my shield against the merlon, keep my spear ready, and settle in for what I know will be hours of standing and watching. Quintus takes position about 20 feet to my right. Rufus is to my left. The rest of our contubernium spaces out along this section of wall. We can see each other, call to each other if needed, but we're far enough apart that we cover more ground. Between us, we're responsible for about 200 feet of wall. Other centuries cover other sections. The whole thing stretches for 80 Roman miles. That's about 73 of your modern miles, from coast to coast, across the narrowest part of Britain. It's an insane piece of engineering, really. Some emperor, Hadrian, hence the name, decided that the best way to control this frontier was to build a wall across the entire width of the island. So we did. Took years, thousands of men, millions of stone blocks. And now here I am, standing on top of it, watching nothing happen. The wind is constant. I pull my sagum, that's my military cloak, tighter around my shoulders, but it doesn't help much. The sagum is wool, thick, and treated to be somewhat water-resistant. But water-resistant and wind-proof are different things. The wind finds every gap in my armor, every opening in my clothing, and exploits it ruthlessly. My nose is running. I wipe it with the back of my hand, which is also freezing, so that's helpful. My ears are numb despite the helmet. My fingers are starting to lose feeling where they grip the spear shaft. This is hour 1 of a 4-hour patrol shift. 3 more hours to go. I scan the horizon. Nothing. I scan the middle distance. Nothing. I scan the foreground, the ditch system, the cleared zone, the approach to the wall. Still, nothing. This is what 99% of wall duty consists of, looking at nothing while freezing. But you keep looking anyway, because the one time you don't look is the one time something actually happens. Mid-morning, time moves slowly. The sun climbs higher. Not that it helps much. A winter sun in Britain is more theoretical than practical. Yes, technically it's there, but its contribution to warmth is negligible. Still, the light improves. I can see farther now. The mist is burning off the valleys, revealing more of the landscape. It's actually beautiful, if I'm honest, which I try not to be too often, because finding beauty in the place that's slowly freezing you to death seems counterproductive. But the rolling hills, the way the light catches the frost, the dark forests in the distance, there's something about it. Something ancient and wild and completely indifferent to whether I live or die. Those of you who served in places far from home will understand what I'm talking about. That strange mix of hating where you are while simultaneously recognizing that you're seeing something most people will never see. I'm standing on the edge of the Roman Empire. Behind me, civilization. Ahead of me, mystery. And I'm cold enough that my philosophy is getting pretentious. My stomach reminds me that I ate nothing before coming on duty. That's normal. We don't eat before morning patrol. You eat after your shift. Something about not wanting to process food while standing in freezing wind for hours. The logic escapes me, but that's the routine. I think about food anyway. Specifically, I think about the bread we'll get later. Army bread is dense, chewy, sometimes stale, often burnt on the bottom. And I would kill a man for some right now. We also get grain for porridge, some oil, occasionally some meat if we're lucky, wine that's been watered down to the point where calling it wine is generous, and salt. Always salt. The army runs on salt and grain and the willingness of men to endure discomfort for a steady paycheck. A bird flies past, some kind of crow or raven, black against the gray sky. It doesn't care about Romans or Picts or walls. It's just flying, going about its business, probably warmer than I am, despite being outside. I watch it until it disappears into the distance. Time moves differently on wall duty. Minutes stretch. Hours become meaningless. You exist in a state of continuous present where nothing changes except the angle of the light and the depth of your numbness. I shift my weight from foot to foot. It helps slightly. The hobnails on my caligae click against the stone. I flex my fingers on the spear shaft, trying to keep blood moving to them. I adjust my helmet, though it doesn't need adjusting. These are all small movements designed to fight the cold and the boredom, small rebellions against the numbness creeping into my extremities. Quintus catches my eye and makes a face that roughly translates to, "This is miserable." I make a face back that agrees wholeheartedly. We don't talk much on the wall. Sound carries, and we're supposed to be listening as well as watching. Plus, talking requires energy, and I'm conserving what little warmth I have. I hear voices from further down the wall, someone's contubernium having a conversation despite the rules. Petronius will hear about it, and someone will regret it later. Not my problem. I keep my mouth shut and my eyes forward. I look down the wall to my right. The structure extends to the nearest mile castle. That's a small fortress built into the wall at 1 mile intervals. Beyond that, I can see another turret. And beyond that, more wall. It just keeps going. To my left, same thing. Wall, turret, mile castle, wall, turret. On and on. 80 miles of it. Sometimes I try to imagine the whole thing at once. All 80 miles, all the forts, all the turrets, all the thousands of men stationed along its length. I can't. The scale is too big. I can only understand the bit I'm standing on, the bit I can see, the bit where my feet are numb and my nose is running, and I'm watching for Picts who probably aren't coming today. This is Rome, though. We build things that last. This wall will be here long after I'm dead. Long after everyone currently standing on it is dead. It will stand for centuries, probably. A monument to Roman engineering and Roman paranoia about barbarians. Late morning. Routine continues. Movement below catches my attention. Not Picts, just the supply train arriving. Mules laden with grain, oil, wine, equipment, all the things needed to keep a garrison functioning. The gates of the Mile Castle open. Guards check the suppliers, wave them through. This happens twice a week, like clockwork. The army runs on logistics more than it runs on courage. I watch the mules file in, their breath steaming in the cold. The men leading them are auxiliaries, non-citizen soldiers who do a lot of the support work. They're probably from Gaul or Germania or Hispania. Anywhere but here. No one's from here. We're all imported to occupy someone else's land. The mules disappear into the Mile Castle. The gates close. Everything returns to the baseline state of nothing happening. My bladder informs me that it would like attention. This is a problem. Coming down from the wall, walking to the latrine, coming back up. That's 15 minutes minimum. And leaving your post without permission is a flogging offense. I ignore my bladder. It can wait. Actually, that's not entirely true. There's a drainage channel built into the wall itself about every 100 feet. Legionaries have been using them for purposes beyond drainage for years. It's not dignified, but neither is standing in frozen wind for 4 hours while your bladder threatens mutiny. I make my way to the nearest channel, do what needs doing, return to my post. The sun continues its arc across the sky. I estimate it's about mid-morning now, maybe the 3rd hour, what you'd call 9 o'clock. I've been on the wall for roughly 2 hours. 2 more to go before my shift ends, and the next rotation takes over. I scan the horizon again. Still nothing. I'm starting to recognize individual trees in the distant forest. That one slightly taller pine, that cluster of oaks, that bare patch that might be a clearing or might be my imagination. I'm memorizing a landscape I don't care about because there's nothing else to do. Those of you who worked construction or engineering will appreciate what went into building this thing. The wall itself is about 15 feet high and about 10 feet thick. It's built of shaped stone blocks on the outside with a rubble and mortar core. The foundation goes down several feet. We dug trenches, laid foundations, built up course by course. Every stone had to be quarried, shaped, transported, and placed for 80 miles. In front of the wall to the north, there's a ditch, the fossa, about 30 feet wide and 15 feet deep. Steep sides, sharpened stakes at the bottom. Anyone trying to reach the wall has to cross that first. And they do it under arrow fire from above. Behind the wall to the south, there's the vallum, another ditch and bank system, but this one's more about controlling movement on the Roman side, keeping civilians from getting too close to military installations. The whole system is a masterpiece of intimidation and practicality. It says, "This is where Rome ends. Beyond here, you're on your own." And more importantly, it says, "If you're thinking of crossing this line uninvited, think again." A particularly strong gust of wind hits me, and I actually have to brace myself to keep from staggering. My cloak whips around, trying to strangle me. I adjust it, pulling it back under control, tucking the edge under my shield arm. The wind is relentless. It's been blowing since I got up here, and it will keep blowing after I leave. It's probably been blowing for 1,000 years, and it will blow for 1,000 more. My face is numb now. Not just cold, numb. I can't feel my nose or my cheeks. My ears are beyond feeling. This is the stage where frostbite becomes a real possibility if you're not careful. I move my jaw, flex my facial muscles, trying to keep blood flowing. I've seen men lose earlobes and fingertips to the cold up here. It's not dramatic. They just turn black and fall off eventually. I'd prefer to keep all my parts attached. Rufus calls over from my left. "Marcus, movement, North Ridge." I snap to attention, scanning where he's indicating. It takes me a moment, then I see it. Figures moving along a ridgeline about a mile out. My heart rate picks up. This could be it. This could be raiders. I count. 5 figures. They're moving east along the ridge, parallel to the wall, but keeping their distance. I can't make out details at this range. Could be Picts, could be hunters, could be locals just going about their business. The problem is, you can't tell until it's too late. "I see them," I call back to Rufus. "Keep watching." I track their movement. They don't change course. They don't approach. They just keep moving along that ridge until they disappear behind another hill. The whole observation lasts maybe 3 minutes. My heart is still elevated. That's the thing about this posting. 99% boredom, 1% terror, and you never know when the switch is going to flip. Those figures were probably harmless. Probably. But probably doesn't mean certainly. And certainly is what keeps you alive. I keep scanning that area for another 10 minutes, looking for any sign they're circling back or approaching. Nothing. They're gone. Just travelers passing through, or scouts checking our readiness, or hunters, or ghosts. Who knows? I realize I'm gripping my spear much harder than necessary. I consciously relax my hands, flex my fingers. The adrenaline is fading now, leaving behind the usual state of cold vigilance. This is what wall duty does to you. You spend hours being bored, then seconds being terrified, then hours being bored again. Your nervous system never quite settles. You're always wound just tight enough that you can't completely relax, but not so tight that you can maintain it. It's exhausting in a way that has nothing to do with physical labor. The sun continues its climb. I estimate I've got maybe an hour left on this shift. Then, someone else gets to stand here and freeze while I go do something else equally unpleasant, but at least different. Shift change. Noon approaches. I hear boots on stone. The relief is coming up. The second rotation is here to take over wall duty while we move to our next assignment. I've never been so happy to see Decimus and his contubernium in my life, and I don't even like Decimus. The shift change is formal. We don't just wander off. The Optio, that's the second in command under Petronius, calls us to attention. First rotation, prepare for relief. Second rotation, assume positions. We stand at our posts while the new men take position next to us. There's a formal exchange. Post secure, no contact, routine patrol. Decimus nods, takes my spot at the Merlin. I step back, retrieve my shield, and join the rest of my contubernium, forming up on the walkway. First rotation, dismissed to midday meal and next duty assignment. We file down the stairs, and I swear I can feel warmth increasing with every step down, even though logically, I know the inside of the Mile Castle isn't that much warmer than the wall top. It's probably psychological. I don't care. Psychological warmth still counts. The mess hall is crowded, noisy, and the most wonderful place I've been all day because it has a fire, an actual fire, burning in a brazier in the center of the room, radiating heat that I can feel even from the doorway. I make my way toward it like a moth to flame, and I'm not the only one. Every man coming off wall duty heads straight for that fire. We don't rush. Rushing to get warm is undignified, and we're Roman legionaries, which means we have standards. We maintain these standards while desperately, quietly, competitively trying to get closer to the heat source than the other guy. I hold my hands out toward the flames. The heat on my palms is almost painful after hours of numbing cold. My hands start to burn and ache as blood flow returns. It's a good pain. It means I'm not frostbitten. Food's the usual, Quintus says, appearing next to me with a wooden bowl. Porridge, bread, some oil. Any meat? Do you see meat? No? Then there's your answer. I get my ration, a bowl of pulse, which is basically boiled grain made into a thick porridge. It's not exciting. It's not flavorful. It is, however, hot and filling, and right now, those are the only qualities I care about. I also get a piece of bread, brown, dense, chewy, and a small cup of pasca, which is wine mixed with so much water and vinegar that calling it wine is technically accurate, but spiritually dishonest. I sit on a bench near the fire, balance the bowl on my knees, and eat. The porridge is scalding hot, which means I have to take small sips and blow on each spoonful. I don't care. Hot food after 4 hours in freezing wind is luxury beyond measure. Around me, my contubernium is settling in, eating, thawing out. The conversation is minimal. Everyone's too busy eating and absorbing heat to waste energy on talking. This is companionable silence, the kind you share with people who've endured the same misery you have. The bread requires actual effort to chew. I think there might be small stones in it. The grain grinding process isn't perfect, so I'm careful. Breaking a tooth on army bread is a real possibility. But it's food, it's fuel, and my body needs it. Anyone see those figures on the North Ridge earlier? Rufus asks, breaking the silence. Yeah, I say. Travelers, probably. Or scouts, or hunters, or ghosts, Quintus adds. We all look at him. What? This place is old. Lot of death. Ghosts make sense. Quintus, you're an idiot, Rufus says without heat. Maybe. But I'm a warm idiot eating food. How are you different? Can't argue with that logic. We eat in silence for a while longer. Those of you who served know these moments. The quiet times between action, when you're just existing with your unit, sharing space and warmth and bad food. These are the moments that build the bonds that keep you alive when things go bad. You don't have to like everyone in your contubernium. I don't particularly like half of these men, but you trust them, and they trust you, and that matters more than friendship. The Optio appears in the doorway. First rotation, finish eating, ditch maintenance in 15 minutes, full equipment. There's a collective groan from everyone in my rotation. Ditch maintenance means going down into the fossa, the defensive ditch in front of the wall, and clearing out debris, sharpening stakes, reinforcing sides. It's cold, wet, miserable work. But it's necessary work, because a compromised ditch is a compromised defense. Could be worse, I say, scraping the last of my porridge from the bowl. How? Quintus asks. Could be raining. Don't say that. You'll jinx us. I don't think that's how weather works. You willing to bet on that? I'm not, actually. I've been in the army long enough to know that tempting fate is real, even if it shouldn't be. We finish our food, drain our cups, and start the process of putting our armor back on. My body protests. My muscles have started to relax from the warmth and food, and they're not happy about being asked to work again. I ignore the protests. The army doesn't care how I feel. Afternoon, ditch maintenance. I stand at the top of the ditch, looking down at what will occupy my next several hours. The fossa is impressive from above, a massive scar cut into the earth, V-shaped, deep enough that a man standing at the bottom disappears from view of anyone approaching from the north. The sides are steep, deliberately so. Anyone trying to climb out of this while people are throwing spears at them from above is going to have a bad time. At the bottom, there are stakes, sharpened wooden stakes driven into the ground, angled toward anyone approaching from the north. Some are damaged, broken by weather, rot, or the occasional animal that wandered in and impaled itself. Our job is to replace those, clear out accumulated dirt and vegetation, and ensure the ditch remains an effective killing zone. Right, says Petronius, who has appeared to personally oversee this particular joy. Teams of 4, rotation every hour. Questions? No one has questions. We know what to do. We've done this before. We'll do it again next week and the week after that. Maintenance is eternal. I take hold of the rope that's been anchored at the top and begin lowering myself down the side of the ditch. The earth is partially frozen, which makes footing treacherous. I go slowly, testing each step. My armor doesn't help. 50 pounds of equipment makes you less graceful when you're navigating a near vertical slope. Halfway down, my foot slips. I catch myself on the rope, scraping my knuckles against the frozen earth. Quintus, descending next to me, asks if I'm all right. I tell him I'm fine, through gritted teeth. My knuckles are bleeding slightly, but that's the least of my concerns. I reach the bottom and immediately sink ankle deep into mud. Of course, the bottom of the ditch is always muddy, even when everything else is frozen. Water collects here, mixes with dirt, creates a soup that sucks at your boots and makes every step an effort. The smell is earthy and damp and vaguely unpleasant in a way I can't quite place. Decay, probably. Organic matter breaking down. Lovely. Marcus, you're on stake replacement. Quintus, debris clearing. Rufus, wall reinforcement. Move. I nod to Petronius. You don't argue with a centurion unless you enjoy punishment, and wade through the mud to where the damaged stakes are. There are about a dozen in this section that need replacing. They're rotted through at the base, probably from standing in water for months. I grab one and pull. It doesn't budge. I pull harder. Still nothing. I brace my feet in the mud and really put my back into it. The stake comes free suddenly, and I fall backward into the mud. Congratulations, I'm now comprehensively filthy. Quintus laughs. I throw a handful of mud at him. He stops laughing and throws one back. Petronius yells at both of us to stop acting like children. We return to work. The new stakes are 8 feet long, sharpened at one end, treated with pitch to resist rot. They're heavy and awkward to maneuver in the confined space of the ditch. I position one in the hole left by the old stake, grab a wooden mallet, and start driving it into the ground. Thud, thud, thud. Each strike drives the stake a little deeper. It's rhythmic work, monotonous. My shoulders start to ache after the first 3 stakes. After 6, my back is protesting. After 9, I'm questioning life choices. This is the reality of being a legionnaire that you don't see in the paintings and mosaics. We're not always in heroic battle poses. Mostly, we're doing this: manual labor, maintenance, the unglamorous work of keeping a military installation functional. We dig ditches, repair fortifications, haul supplies, and occasionally, when things go wrong, we fight. But the fighting is rare. The digging is constant. Taking a break? Quintus calls, from where he's shoveling accumulated dirt out of a drainage channel. Just appreciating the view, I call back, leaning on my mallet. What view? It's a ditch. Exactly. Really puts things in perspective. He laughs and returns to shoveling. I return to driving stakes. The work continues. The afternoon wears on. The sun moves across the sky. I can track its progress by the thin strip of light visible between the ditch walls. The temperature drops slightly as shadows lengthen. My hands are numb again, but now it's from gripping tools rather than just from cold. Progress, of a sort. We work in rotation as ordered. 1 hour in the ditch, then up top to warm briefly, then back down. It's not generous, but it prevents anyone from getting hypothermic or too exhausted to work safely. The Army has learned through long experience that dead or incapacitated soldiers are counterproductive. During my 3rd rotation in the ditch, something interesting happens, which is to say, something other than driving stakes occurs. Rufus, working on reinforcing a section of the ditch wall, uncovers something metal about 2 feet down. Petronius, found something. Work stops. Everyone gathers around. Petronius slides down into the ditch to investigate. Rufus has brushed away enough dirt to reveal what looks like bronze. Petronius examines it, then has Rufus dig more carefully around it. What emerges is a torque, one of those twisted metal neck rings the Celts and Picts wear. This one is old, judging by the corrosion. Could be decades old, could be centuries. Hard to say. Probably from before the wall was built, Petronius says, turning it over in his hands, when this was all their territory. It's a strange moment. Standing in a ditch, we dug into land that belonged to someone else, holding jewelry that belonged to someone who lived here before Rome decided this was worth occupying. The torque isn't valuable, bronze, not gold, and corroded at that. But it's a reminder that this frontier isn't empty. It was someone's home before it was our defensive line. Petronius tosses the torque to Rufus. Keep it, if you want. Back to work. The moment passes. We return to stakes and shovels and mud. But I find myself thinking about whoever wore that torque and what they thought when the Romans showed up and started building walls through their land. Probably nothing positive. Late afternoon. Completing the day's labor. By the time Petronius calls the work finished, the sun is getting low. We've been in and out of that ditch for about 4 hours, and we've managed to replace probably 30 stakes, clear 2 drainage channels, and reinforce about 50 feet of wall. It's not glamorous, but the ditch is objectively more functional than it was this morning. I'm also objectively more filthy than I was this morning. My tunic is caked with mud. My armor has mud in every joint and crevice. My hands look like I've been digging graves, which isn't that far from the truth if you think about what the ditch is for. My back aches. My shoulders ache. My hands are raw from gripping tools. I climb out of the ditch using the rope, which is harder going up than it was coming down, because gravity is no longer helping. My arms shake with effort. I haul myself over the top edge and lie on the ground for a moment, breathing hard. On your feet, soldier, Petronius says, not unkindly. We're not done yet. Of course we're not. We spend the next 30 minutes cleaning and storing equipment. Every tool gets wiped down, checked for damage, properly stored. This is army discipline. You take care of your equipment because your equipment keeps you alive. A shovel might not be a weapon, but a functional shovel means a functional defense, which means you don't die when enemies show up. I clean my armor as best I can with a rag and water. The mud is stubborn. Some of it will stay in the joints until I can properly oil and clean everything later. My tunic is beyond help. It needs actual washing, which won't happen until the next scheduled laundry day. Until then, I get to smell like a ditch. Wonderful. Dismissed to evening meal and free time, Petronius finally says. Formation at first light tomorrow. we're released. The day's official duties are complete. What remains is the personal business of eating, cleaning ourselves as much as possible, and trying to get warm before sleeping. I head for the bathhouse. Yes, we have a bathhouse. We're Romans. Even at the edge of civilization, we maintain standards. It's not luxurious. No marble, no elaborate mosaics, just functional pools of water heated by a hypocaust system. But after a day of freezing and then digging in mud, even basic hot water is paradise. I strip off my filthy tunic and armor, carefully, because I'll need to clean it all later, and step into the caldarium, the hot water pool. The heat hits my skin like a physical force. I actually groan out loud. Several other men in the pool laugh. They made the same sound when they got in. The water is almost too hot, which makes it perfect. I sink down until only my head is above the surface and just exist for a while. My muscles slowly unknot. The grime starts to loosen. I can feel my body temperature rising for the first time since morning. Around me, other legionaries are doing the same. There's conversation, complaints about Petronius, speculation about when we'll get rotated to a better posting, jokes about Quintus's mother that Quintus pretends not to hear. It's the normal social noise of men relaxing after hard work. I use a strigil, that's a curved bronze scraper, to scrape off the oil and dirt that the hot water has loosened. It's not gentle, but it's effective. The water around me turns brown from the day's accumulated filth. I don't care. Everyone else's water is doing the same thing. I notice the scars on my arms and hands while I'm cleaning. That's new. Usually, I don't pay attention to them. But right now, warming up after a hard day, I'm cataloging the damage. That puckered mark on my left forearm is from a picked arrow that went through and through 4 years ago. The line across my knuckles is from a training accident with a gladius. The burn on my right shoulder is from a forge mishap when I was doing equipment repair. The collection of smaller scars is from 14 years of military service doing military things in military places. Those of you who served in combat zones will have your own collections. Different wars, different weapons, same principle. The body keeps score. After sufficient soaking, I move to a cooler pool to rinse, then finally out to dry off. There's a bench where I can sit and work on my armor, scraping off the dried mud, oiling the joints, checking for damage. This is the maintenance that never ends. Equipment requires care. Care requires time. Time is what you have in garrison when you're not actively fighting. Quintus sits next to me, working on his own armor. Long day. They're all long days. Yeah, but some are longer. philosophical Quintus. That's new. I contain multitudes. We work in silence for a while, the comfortable silence of people who don't need to fill every moment with talking. Evening. Domestic military life. Back in the barracks, the evening has a different quality than the morning. There's less urgency. Duties are done. The next shift of wall guards is on duty. Those of us who are off can actually relax within the confines of military relaxation. I'm lying on my bunk, finally warm, finally clean, finally not actively doing something. My dinner, more porridge, more bread, some actual meat this time, a small piece of pork, is sitting heavily but satisfyingly in my stomach. My body is tired in that good way where you've worked hard and now you can rest. Around the barracks, men are engaged in the timeless activities of soldiers with free time. Some are gambling, dice games that aren't technically allowed, but everyone plays anyway. Some are writing letters home, assuming they're literate and have someone to write to. Some are repairing personal gear. Some are just talking. Rufus is polishing his new torque, the one he found in the ditch. He's managed to clean off most of the corrosion. It looks pretty good, actually. Bronze with intricate, twisted patterns. Whoever made it knew their craft. I'm not writing letters. I did that early in my service, wrote to my family back in Hispania. But it's been years since I heard back. Either they moved, or they died, or they decided a son in the legions isn't worth maintaining contact with. Doesn't matter which. The result is the same. Instead, I'm just lying here, thinking. Dangerous pastime for a soldier, thinking. Leads to questions about life choices and meaning, and whether any of this matters. Better to stay busy, stay tired, not leave room for philosophy. But sometimes, at the end of a long day, when your body is finally still and your mind isn't occupied with immediate tasks, the thoughts come anyway. I think about the torque Rufus found. I think about the person who wore it. I think about how this wall we're guarding divides territory that was once all one thing. I think about what happens when empires push their borders into places that don't want to be bordered. I think about the fact that I have 11 more years of this. 11 more years of wall duty and ditch maintenance and cold and mud and occasional terror. Then, if I survive, I get my discharge and a plot of land somewhere and a pension. That's the deal. 25 years of service in exchange for citizenship and security. Seems like a fair trade some days. Other days, not so much. Today, I'm too tired to decide. Marcus, you playing or not? Someone calls from the dice game. Not tonight. Your loss. Probably not, actually. I'm terrible at dice. The gods of chance do not favor me. Better to keep my money and my dignity. The evening deepens. The temperature in the barracks drops as the fire in the brazier burns lower. Someone will need to add wood eventually, keep it going through the night. There's a rotation for that too. Everything in the army is rotation and duty and schedule. I pull my blanket up, adjust my position on the wooden bunk. The straw mattress has compressed over time into something only technically qualifying as a mattress. It's more of a concept of padding than actual padding, but it's familiar. This bunk has been my sleeping place for 2 years. I know every uncomfortable part of it. Around me, the barracks is settling down for sleep. Conversations trail off. The dice game concludes with someone winning money they probably didn't need, and someone else losing money they definitely needed. Oil lamps are extinguished one by one, leaving only a couple burning for the night watch. Darkness comes. Not complete darkness. There's moonlight through the small windows, and the dying fire casts a faint red glow, but enough darkness that you can't see details anymore, just shapes and shadows. I close my eyes. Tomorrow will be the same as today. Wall duty, maintenance, meals, sleep. The day after that will be the same as tomorrow. This is the rhythm of garrison life. Repetitive, predictable, safe, in a boring sort of way, which is better than the alternative. I've seen the alternative. Combat, chaos, people dying in ways that aren't predictable or boring. I'll take the boredom. My last conscious thought before sleep takes me is about those figures on the ridge this morning. Were they scouts? Will they be back? Will tomorrow be the same as today? Or will tomorrow be the day things get interesting in ways I don't want? No way to know. So I push the thought away and let sleep come. Night. Sleep and tomorrow. The barracks is quiet now, except for the usual nighttime sounds. Breathing, snoring, someone shifting in their sleep. Rufus snores like he's trying to wake the dead. Quintus occasionally talks in his sleep in Spanish. These are familiar sounds, comforting in their way. Outside, the wind continues. It always continues. It'll be blowing when I wake up tomorrow morning. It'll be blowing when I climb those stairs to the wall. It'll be blowing when I stand watch, when I dig in ditches, when I eat my meals. The wind is constant, more constant than Rome, more constant than emperors, more constant than any of us. Somewhere on the wall, men are standing guard right now, doing what I did this morning, watching for enemies, that probably won't come. Tomorrow, I'll be doing something else. Equipment, maintenance, maybe, or supply inventory, or training drills. The schedule rotates. The duties change. The underlying reality stays the same. I'm a soldier on the frontier of an empire that stretches from here to Africa to the Middle East. I'm one small piece of a massive military machine that has conquered most of the known world. I'm also just a man trying to stay warm, stay fed, stay alive, and count down the years until I can stop being a soldier. Both things are true. I can be part of history and also be cold. I can serve Rome and also question why. I can do my duty and also count the days until I don't have to anymore. Tomorrow morning, I'll wake up cold again. I'll put on my armor again. I'll climb those stairs and stand on that wall and watch that empty landscape again. And the day after that, I'll do it again, and again, and again, for 11 more years. Unless something changes. Unless those figures on the ridge come back with friends. Unless the Picts decide this is the day they test our defenses. Unless illness strikes, or accident, or any of the 1,000 things that can end a soldier's service prematurely. But probably not. Probably tomorrow will be like today. Probably I'll grow older on this wall, accumulating more scars, more aches, more memories of days that all blur together into one long experience of cold and duty and waiting. The wall will outlast me. That's certain. This massive thing we've built, this line of stone and determination across an island, will be here long after Marcus Valerius Severus is dust. Future people will look at it and wonder about the men who built it, who guarded it, who lived and died on it. Will they understand what it was like? The cold, the boredom, the small moments of terror, the endless routine? Probably not. They'll see the stone and the scale and the achievement. They won't see the individual days, the individual soldiers, the small human experiences that added up to the grand historical thing. That's fine. History isn't built on comfortable memories. It's built on stone and duty, and thousands of men doing their jobs even when those jobs are cold and boring and seemingly endless. I'm one of those men. Today was one of those days. Tomorrow will be another. And that's enough philosophy for one night. Sleep deepens. Dreams come. Formless, brief, forgotten upon waking. The night passes. The guard changes on the wall. The stars wheel overhead. The wind continues its endless conversation with the stone. And in the morning, when the buccinator sounds, and I wake to cold and duty once more, it will all begin again. The same routine, the same tasks, the same wall, the same frontier. Because that's what I am. A legionnaire on Hadrian's wall in the year 128. This is my life. This is my day, repeated with minor variations, for as long as Rome requires my service. If tonight's glimpse into a Roman legionnaire's experience brought back memories, whether from your own service, from stories your father told about soldiering, or just from understanding what it means to do hard work in hard conditions, I'd be honored if you shared them in the comments below. Those of you who served in Korea, or anywhere cold, or anywhere you had to just keep going despite everything telling you to stop, your perspective matters. Your experience connects to this across the centuries. The details change. The core experience of military service doesn't. Now rest well. And remember, someone lived this. Someone endured this. Someone stood on that wall and watched that horizon and counted down their years. And tomorrow, they woke up and did it again. I'll see you in the next one.